Good afternoon or good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Dallas.Juan Prepper coming to you live from Dallas, Texas. On my way to work this morning. This is a video response to Anthony at Bibles and Barbells. I don't know if you've seen his video, but he's making a change, going from the suburbs into a more urban area. Now, as everybody knows, I live here in Dallas, Texas. Pretty big city, has a population I'm not exactly sure the numbers on, but it's a pretty large city. It has a couple sports teams. But anyways, here's just my take on what a urban prepper will be dealing with. Living in the cities, living in the city. There's common everyday problems, things like that we might have. A couple of the things that you're going to encounter with living in the city is living in an apartment is the space. You're gonna have a real big issue with space. Most decent apartments are like 800, like 1,000 square feet, and then depending on your rent, whatever you're gonna get, and there's not really a lot of space. Unless you get like a 2 or 3 bedroom, then you can use those other bedrooms as space. Build some shelves in there. And believe it or not, my wife and I, we have done that. We've gone that route before. It was just it was too expensive. It was, as preppers, we try to save as much money as we can and keep our costs at a minimum. So we did that a couple times and decided, it wasn't for us. So then I'm sleeping. Anyways, we went to a 1-bedroom and just started having shelvings all over the place. And my wife, she's a lady. She likes to have, the other ladies over, church ladies and whatnot. And she thought that looked she didn't like the way that looked because everybody was looking at her pretty weird. They would come over seeing shelves and shelves and racks of food, medical supplies, all that other stuff that we as preppers stockpile and store. Anyways, that's just one of the take on the space issue. Now, a huge advantage of being in the urban environment of city is, of course, more resources. If you look, there's a dumpster, there's a pallet. This is just one of the another huge advantage is these industrial areas, these industrial sections, part of towns in the city, in the urban areas. I've been on the strip for a couple miles. It goes for a couple miles long. There's a scrap yard. You can go ahead and get your scrap metal. We're preppers. We can make odds and ends and cobble things out of anything. Give us a Leatherman and some duct tape, we'll be good. But yeah, there's little levees and waterways and whatnot you can navigate through. Get your fresh water, resources, things like that. Look at these. They're freaking warehouses as far as the eye can see. I guarantee every one of these warehouses has a loading dock, and every one of these loading docks has about 5 or 6 pallets on them. And as preppers, we know that pallets are good firewood in the SHTF situation. Now look, shelter, built-in shelters right there. If need be, you could go and sleep in one of those trailers, those enclosed trailers. Look, more resources, shrubbery, bushes, concealment, things like that. Think about it, man. There's stuff everywhere for you. Yep. Good turtle. There they come. Turtle stop. He's like, whoa, hold on. Have one out here, baby.
Yeah.
They're nice. Where'd they go? They're what?
They ran. I think they went down now.
You what?
This is nice, but then it could also be bad for mosquitoes.
Bugs and shit over there.
People that have around me.
I don't know, empty. I'm noticing.
Yeah, a lot of stuff on there.
It's actually more expensive to live over here.
Probably. Probably why they're empty.
Huh?
Probably why they're empty.
Yeah.
The bee
Oh, let's go. Time to go.
The bee said, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
There's something over there. It's really high.
Remember it was like lower the last time?
It's lower, I think.
Oh, yeah.
It's supposed to give it up to school.
Yeah, exactly. It's pulling over in some places right now.
You see them?
Yep. Like I was saying with the resources, there's about 10, 15 turtles just chilling, sunbathing over there. I know we've seen quite a few floating around in the water over there, so there's always abundance of resources here in the cities. Yeah, so my wife and I, we just got back from our little tour, a little trip around the pond there, here at our apartments. We have about 2 or 3 different ponds here. They're both stocked with fish, and well, they're actually edible. They're, some bass, crappie, panfish, things like that. It's technically a catch and release pond, but yeah, Anyways, so yeah, I live in a city, and everybody knows, Dallas, Texas, city where I live in. And I mean, I've lived all over the place. I mean, I've lived in real small rural towns. I've lived in, downtown, like major cities. I've lived in the suburbs. So I mean, I know I have a pretty unique way of looking at things as far as which would be better, which would give you more survivability. Either the suburban area, being an extreme rural area with not a lot of people, or living in an urban environment, or hell, I've even lived in some of the worst parts of Dallas, like in the straight hoods, where it was where it was just, gang violence and just the stuff you see on the news. It was the areas of Dallas where I lived at and hung out, spent my time at. But yeah, those days are gone. So I have some sort of insight, on things like that. What areas would be best. And really, the way I think about it is, there's not really any place that would guarantee you survivability, or where one place will be better off than another. I mean, everyone's situation is unique. Say you have somebody that's really good at farming. Farming the land, has experience in agricultural. Running machinery operations, things like that. Then yeah, you would do better in the rural countryside, or even in the suburbs. So there's a lot of tracts of land, a lot of suburban neighborhoods that have huge parks and green belt areas, things like that. So I mean, that would work. Or say you have somebody that's, I don't know, say an electrical engineer, someone that's an electrician. They would probably do a little bit better in the city, just for the simple fact that they will be able to get a building or get a whole floor of a hotel, be able to secure it, and have the whole floor of a hotel, or a number of rooms, or a combination of office buildings, whatever, up and running to where it'll have power, it'll have heat, they can cook food, things like that. It's or it's just a regular house, whatever. They can have, their family, their close relatives, etc. The people that they're responsible for taking care of would be living with them at that location. Where say you have somebody that maybe has some medical issues, someone that's that is dependent on medicines, possibly has a disability or handicap, things like that. They would more than likely fare well in an urban environment, in a city environment, maybe even the suburbs, but possibly not in the rural settings, things like that. Because where it's such a heavy focus on hard labor, swinging the pick, swinging the pick, the axe, the shovel, things like that. Learning how to tend to crops, knowing how to tend to crops, tend to equipment and machinery, things like that. Now, yeah, somebody like that, with disabilities or handicaps, yeah, you could, do a lot of the work inside inside the home, not the labor work, like helping prepare the food, the meals, things like that. But I mean, I guess where I would stand is I'm a huge proponent of cities. And with living in the cities, and because I've lived in big cities, and I know it basically all comes down to resources. Here in the big cities, and even in the suburbs, I mean, you have tons and tons and tons of resources. You have schools, elementary, high school, preschool, all the levels of schools. Excuse me. You have schools, daycares, hotels, hospitals. All of those are life-saving resources. Say you get injured and you don't have any antibiotics or medical supplies, what have you. You can, go on down to the hospital. And of course, you're not gonna just walk in like you do right now. Hey, I'm sick, I'm hurt, help me out. You're gonna have to walk in and more likely circle the place a few times, scout it out for a couple hours. And hey, okay, it's safe to go in. There's nobody else coming in and out. Go in, do what you have to do. Purchase or trade or barter whatever you need to get, and then leave. And come back and tend your wounds, what have you. For as far as if you live, like say in if you live in say like a really, really rural area where the nearest town is like 50, 60 miles down the road, and it would take you a week to get there to maybe a hospital or maybe a vet, and then another week to come back. By that time you're dead. Or if you land out dead on the road, infection, or the person you're coming back home to rescue, you got to bury him now because it took forever to get there. But as I mentioned, I'm definitely a huge supporter, of living in cities. Just number one, because the resources. It'll be a lot easier to survive an SHTF situation or anything like that, just because of the resources, the availability of resources, and the available, just the huge number of people, which is both a problem and it's both a curse and a blessing. Now with dealing with people in in a SHTF type environment, I think everybody knows I live in the city. I'm more of an advocate for a city. It's not the worst place to be, and it's not the best place to be in the SHTF scenario. If anything, I think it's even better because number one, you have a lot more resources. You have a lot more opportunities to make a community, make a tight knit little group. For that, just by numbers, you can't help but meet and know 10 people. They may not be super close acquaintances, but that's not the world that we live in nowadays for the most part. But I'd say if I know 10 men and 10 ladies by their first name, I'm better off than someone that just waves at their neighbor driving to work or just, hey, how you doing? And with living out in a rural area or a suburb area, you're more likely to know your neighbors just because people in that type of environment tend to talk to each other more. But as far as people that are here in a urban environment or a big city, I hate to say this, but they're more selfish. They're just focused in their own little world, walking around with their phone, staring at their phone all day long. Facebook this, Facebook that, Twitter, etc. Pinterest, all this, trying to be trendy, trying to be cool. That's the majority that's in a big city. I'm sorry to say, but it's true. And you go, you might, like I said, you might have a few people that you've met along the way, here in life, in a city that, you might trust a little bit, but, that's what it is. Because people are so selfish and just self-involved and into themselves in a SHTF situation, they're gonna freak out. They're gonna be paranoid. They're gonna lose it. They're gonna be the ones out at Walmart, out at Big Lots, Sam's. They're gonna be out there in the chaos and the mayhem. I know because I've seen this during some really bad ice storms and snowstorms we had this past winter, or just past natural disasters I've been affected by. Plus, and while they're out there doing that, they're not focused. Everybody's going this way. They're going in this direction. They're not paying any attention to anybody going this direction. You know what I mean? So if in a SHTF, a society collapse type situation, if you can hunker down in your place, in your house, especially in your apartment, if you can just hunker down and be safe and keep the shades drawn and wait it out, I'd say for at least a week, you'll own the city. You'll have it all to yourself. Because all the looters, they're not going door to door. They're going to Walmart. They're going here. They're going to the big box stores. They're not going to the apartment complexes. And the people in the apartment complexes are pushing out. They're bugging out. They're pushing out, spilling into the streets. So you're going to have your whole complex to yourself after a few days. And then, even then after a week or a month, you may still, after a week, you may still see a couple people wandering around the parking lots or whatnot. But for the most part, those apartment complexes are going to be empty and they'll be yours, basically.